Welcome back to the Move to Spain podcast. My name is John Towell, and today we're joined by Belén Batalla, a Spanish lawyer and a partner at the law firm. Hi, Belén, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing, John?
Very, very well. I always say when you come on the podcast, the only time we ever get to talk is the Christmas party.
Yeah,
The
that's
Christmas
for sure.
party and videos. Now, one of the things, or the thing we're going to talk about in this video is holiday rental licenses. So if you're thinking about buying a property in Spain, don't skip this video because one day you might need a holiday rental license, even if you're not thinking of it now, and it's better to have it in your pocket, as it were, in case you might need it in the future. And of course, if you're buying a property in Spain, make sure you take independent legal advice. Belen talks about it in episode 9 of the podcast, all the things the lawyers check. We hear from a Spanish notary in episode 5 of the podcast, and even the Spanish notary says, look, take independent legal advice. But one of the small things, there's a lot of things to check, and Belen mentions it all the time on the live stream and in articles and things. But one of the small things that people sometimes want to know and want to get is a holiday rental license. Isn't that right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. That is true. Most of our clients, well, at least they want to have the tourist license just in case they sometimes think on renting the property.
Yeah.
But of course, we will speak about this. Of course, there are other kind of rentals, not just the holiday rental.
Yeah. So, what's the legal position now with holiday rental licenses, and does it vary between where you are in Spain?
Yes. So at the moment, the requirements in Andalusia, where we are based, were pretty flexible. Basically, in order to get a tourist license, you just needed, of course, to be the owner, to submit the first occupation license, very important documents. All of our clients know it because I talk about the first occupation license since the very beginning of the purchase, actually. So you only needed that two things, a digital certificate to submit the application, and it was quite easy. In the area of Valencia, for example, many of our clients buy there in the coast of Valencia. You have to submit now the certificate from the land registry showing that you are the owner, and you also need to submit approval from the community of owners showing that the community of owners allow this kind of rentals.
Yeah, just to make that clear, if you're an American, a community of owners is like a condo with like the association of owners with a condo. But of course, if you're not buying with a community of owners, if you're just buying a separate detached house or you buying, I don't know, a farmhouse in the countryside, there's different things, isn't there?
Yes, exactly. So if you buy a house that doesn't belong to a community, you are buying a house that is just the house. You're not within a community of owners. In that case, you of course will not need any authorization from anyone.
Right.
The new law actually makes the situation to be very similar to the current situation in the area of Valencia. So
Right.
Andalusia is much more flexible at the moment than Valencia, but this law comes to make a unique criteria and requirements for the whole of Spain. And this law, what it says is that in order to get a tourist license, you need the specific approval of the community of owners. You
Right.
must submit that when you apply for the license, which is something that at the moment in Andalusia didn't exist. The
Right.
difference in Valencia, because in Valencia at the moment you can submit a certificate from the community of owners, from the administrator of the community saying holiday rentals are allowed. But now you need a specific authorization from the community of owners, and this has to be done in a meeting. The communities in Spain, they gather at least once a year. It is called in Spanish Junta Ordinaria, the ordinary meeting of each community. It is normally July, August, always in summer normally. And then the community, if for whatever reason, more than 25% of the neighbors they want to gather, they can gather, and that is called extraordinary meeting. So what you need, according to the new law, when you submit a tourist license, is the approval of the community of owners done in either ordinary or extraordinary meeting, and
Right.
you need the certificate of that.
Right. So if I'm thinking about buying a holiday apartment, when is this law due to come in?
On the 4th of April.
Right. So we're on the 27th of March
Yeah,
now,
next week. Yeah.
the next week. So the 4th of April, if I'm thinking about buying a property um, in a condo or community of owners, and like, I say, and what we advise people to do is, yeah, agree the price, make an offer, and then don't sign up anything. And I ring you up and I say, look, Belen, I've got this property. I want to buy it, this apartment in the community. Where do we go from here? But either A, I want to rent it out to make some money, or B, well, I'm not sure, but I just want it just in case in a few years' time I might change my mind. Where do we go from there? What can you do?
Well, the first step for me always is to see the position of the community. Communities are, people is people in the end, and people have different positions depending on their ideas. So my first way of proceeding in this kind of cases is calling the community. The administrator of each community knows the neighbors. They know them because they are together in the meetings, and they know more or less who is pro-tourist rentals and who is against tourist rentals. So my first step is always to call the administrator, speak with him, and see what he thinks. Do you think my client will be approved for this license? And if they say no, this community is absolutely against the holiday rentals, well, in that case, I can warn my client that this community might be against the holiday rental, and he can decide if he finds other property, which is a possibility. There are still many community of owners that are integrated by houses that are, all of them are rented on holiday. So of course, in this case,
Yeah.
the community will not be against it. Or, as I said before, sometimes we forget that we have another kind of rentals, not just the holiday rental. For example, if a person from out of Spain wants to come to spend here the whole summer, which is something very common, you can
Yeah.
rent for 3 months. Or if a teacher wants to rent you out the property, or a student for 9 months, that is also possible. And you don't need a tourist license for that.
Yeah, we forget that. Yeah, a lot of people come for the summer. People move within Spain for their jobs. And also a lot of Northern Europeans come to escape the winter as well.
Exactly. Yeah. This is why, well, you have other options. We still, as I said, we still have communities in which neighbors will always be pro holiday rentals because all of the houses in the community are dedicated to this kind of rental. But still, if you want to proceed with that specific property, you will be able to rent the property in a short-term basis, as I said, for students or teachers. One thing that the law does change in this sense is that, according to this new law, you will need to register your rental in the land registry. So even if it is short-term rental that doesn't require a tourist license, like a rental to a teacher or a student, you will need to register it in the land registry. Just register it. You do not need the authorization from anyone or anything, but you need to register it.
And that would be the owner of the property would have to register it.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Now, the other question is, if, for example, I buy a property and there is a tourist license, how do I get that tourist license? What happens?
The new law is applied. So at the moment, we don't know exactly what the law will say. We are just anticipating what we know at the moment is that the authorization will be required for new licenses, for sure. For previous licenses that already existed before the law, I assume that the authorities will apply the new law for the change. Yeah.
Right.
And for
Okay.
the change, you will also, if you want to change ownership, you will need the consent of the community of owners. It is the safest way to proceed because if you do not proceed according to the law, the fines are very high. So it is better to go and be safe about that.
Right. So just to be sure, if I'm buying a property, I mean, we cover all of Spain. It's not an issue. But say, for example, I'm buying a property in Andalusia. There's already a tourist license. We think the new law will cover the transfer of that.
The new law, what? Sorry?
We think that the new law will recognize the existing license.
We recognize it, yeah. But in order to change it, you will need to submit all of these documents: the authorization from the community of owners, the certificate showing that you are the owner. This is also a new thing that we have. You will need to submit a document showing not just the deed. You will need to submit a document showing that you are the owner. It is called in Spanish Certificado de Dominio y Cargas. It's a certificate from the land registry showing that the ownership is yours. This is
Oh, well,
something very easy to get.
Well, that's good because that should stop a lot of the rental scams.
Yes, yes, that's correct. Yeah, that is also correct.
Excellent, excellent. What about a scenario where, and I appreciate this is people, this is only a tiny, tiny, tiny part of the property purchase process. But say, for example, you speak to the president of the community of owners, and the president says, yeah, there's not going to be a problem. And then they have a meeting. He can't say what they're going to do. He can only give you his opinion.
Yes, unfortunately, before this law, what I normally did in these kind of cases in which if my client tells me, I want 100% the property for holiday rentals, otherwise I wouldn't buy. Well, what I did in that kind of cases is to request in the purchase contract, we state that the seller will provide before completion a certificate from the community of owners, which is the most up-to-date information that holiday rentals are allowed. That way, it was very complicated just in 2 weeks for the community to change their minds. At the moment, with the new law in hand, actually, that certificate doesn't even cover me because now for me, the word of the administrator of the community is not enough. Now I need the approval from the owners directly, not from the administrator. So at the moment, unfortunately, we will not be able to guarantee 100% to anyone that if you want to proceed and buy a property, you will get a tourist license.
Right. So the most you'll be able to do when the new law comes in, say, I have had a conversation or an email with the president of the community, and the president of the community doesn't foresee any problems.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
That's the most we can do at the moment. We have also some new regulations in each town hall about this. So, for example, in the town hall of Malaga, and this is also important for people to know, they are not granting tourist licenses if the property doesn't have an independent entrance to the street, which means that most of the properties within a community of owners will not access to these tourist licenses because you normally do not have an independent entrance.
Right, right. So another thing is just basically, I've said this a million times, I should get a t-shirt. Well, don't give anybody any money and don't sign anything until you've spoken to Belen. And then Belen can tell you, because what you want and what you might get might be two different things. Because this law about holiday rentals having a separate access, it's not the same all over Spain.
It is not. We don't have a law in the whole of Spain that obliges properties to have an independent entrance. Just some town halls that have decided that the safest way to proceed is when you have an independent entrance. I think the first town hall doing that was Madrid, I think. But then Malaga joined, and some other town halls have thought the same thing. Here in Fuengirola, where we are based, for example, depending on the area where the property is, the town hall will also apply this rule.
Yeah. So basically, for the people listening, or if you're watching on the YouTube channel, it's impossible for us to give advice. You have to give us the particular information regarding the particular property that you want to buy. And obviously, don't commit yourself to buying that property until you've spoken to Belen or one of the other property lawyers at justlostlisters.com. So hopefully, Belen, on the 3rd of April, we're going to know a lot more.
Yes, but the big changes are these ones we are speaking. But yes, in the 4th of April, we will know more.
Right. Okay. Well, it sounds like there's a lot happening in the Spanish legal system in the near future.
The Spanish legal system is actually changing a lot at the moment, and they are driving us lawyers crazy, absolutely crazy, because we have the changes in the immigration law. We have a law in Spanish called Ley de Enjuiciamiento Civil, which is the law that regulates how a judicial process is. This law has changed a lot. On the 4th of April as well. It's a very good date. And
Right.
then we have this change of the holiday rental. So it is a very big month for lawyers, let's say.
Well, I think we're up to about 8 lawyers if you count me now. So don't worry, everyone. We've got you covered at justlostlisters.com. We don't stop for siestas. We don't stop for August. We just continue every day, apart from
Yeah,
weekend.
that's true. For the good or the bad, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on, Belen. It's been very interesting as usual. And you normally see Belen on the live stream. and we'll have to make some more videos because it sounds like lots of things are happening.
Lots of things are happening, and we will make more videos explaining this because the law will come in force in the 4th of April. But we will have to see how it is just a matter of time that any of these ends in a judicial process started by anyone. So we will have to see how our Supreme Court interprets the new law, and what sentences do we have to comment. We will
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and this applies to all laws. Just because a law comes out, we can't anticipate how the courts are going to interpret the law. So watch this
Exactly.
space.
So
Like,
we will have lots of news this year.
yeah, absolutely. So like, subscribe, have a look at the website, justlawsolicitors.com, join the Move to Spain Facebook group, watch the live stream, TikTok, Instagram, everything else we're on, you know. But thanks as always, Belen, for taking the time out, and I'll speak to you at the Christmas party.
Thank you.
All right.
Speak to
Thanks a
you
lot.
soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.